Melanin, get ready. We're back with another canning video, and this time we're gonna can some fresh green beans, and we're gonna use the raw packing method. So once again, raw packing just means that we haven't cooked, blanched, or anything the food, vegetables that we're canning. So I wanted to show that canning really doesn't have to be rocket science. It can be super easy breezy. So this is what we're going to do. So I threw in a few cloves of garlic, minced it in my little handy dandy food processor to show you that it doesn't take much. We're not even going to chop up anything. Okay. So now I'm going to just get all of the garlic to go in one little area, just so that it's easier for me to handle when it comes to that point in time. So what is the garlic for? I don't know about you, but I love me some green beans with garlic. So being that we already know that once we start the canning process, the green beans are going to get cooked. So why not season them in the process? So the reason why I have an oven mitt on is because these jars are hot. Okay, so I sterilized these jars in the oven. I did the oven method opposed to the boiling water method because why? I just want to try, different ways, right? So these jars are hot, and that's why you see being very careful, right, when it comes to putting the green beans and whatnot in. So why are the jars hot? The jars are hot because we're going to put hot water into these jars. Now, there's hot water going into the jars, and there's also, right now while we're doing this, there's water simmering inside of our pressure canner. Now, the reason why we're doing this is to prevent our jars from cracking. We don't want to have cold jars, then we're going to put hot water into those jars and then put them into a cold canner, right? We don't want the jars to crack. So as you can see, I took and I put some of that minced garlic into the jars, and I just stuffed in some more of the green beans. Now, if you want, you can cut your green beans. Some of them are cut, and then in the process of cutting it, I was just like, you know what? It's not that serious. I'm just going to throw it in. I want to just really emphasize how easy breezy this thing can be, and it's not rocket science, right? And I know that a lot of times we can overly think things, right? And it doesn't take all of that, all right? So now I'm going to use my funnel, and I'm going to ladle in some hot water, okay? Now remember, we're going to put this water up to 1 inch of headspace, and we learned from previous video that 1 inch of headspace is when the jar, right before the rim, not the rim, but right before the jars start to do that spin, right, in order for us to put our ring around it. Okay, so I'm ladling in the hot water, right, and pretty much just right now making sure that my lids are prepped, and I'm gonna take, and remember I told you before, if you don't have your debubbler, you can also use a butter knife, and that's why this time around I'm using a butter knife, just to show you that, hey, if you don't have the debubbler, it's fine, right? Just use a butter knife. Long as you can get it on along the sides of the jar, you're fine. Okay, so now we got all of the air bubbles out, and what you see me doing right now is just pushing the green beans down, because I really want to make sure that I have 1 inch of headspace. So I'm wiping off the jar with our white vinegar to make sure that there's no water, there's no green beans, there's no garlic or anything around the rim of the jars. Now, just FYI, my camera went dead and I didn't know, right? So, but you know what we do. We clean off the rim of the jars, we put the lids on, and then we put the rings on. Now, we wait for there to be a steady stream of steam coming out of the nozzle of the canner. When that happens for 10 minutes, right, we're going to let that happen for 10 minutes. And when that happens, that's when we're going to come in with our pressure regulator, and we're going to put our pressure regulator over that valve. Right now, when our pressure canner gets to 10 pounds of pressure for my elevation, that's what I have to process things at, 10 pounds of pressure. Once it gets to that, I'm going to set my timer for 25 minutes because it takes 25 minutes to process these green beans. Right now, another thing, right now, as you can see, it's like 10, not Lois, I'm sorry, it's like less than 2 minutes left in the processing time, but I just want to show you guys that I've been staying within the time. So once the two minutes that I had left are up, I'm going to turn off my pressure canner, right? I'm going to turn the fire off. Now that nipple being up shows you that there's pressure, built up pressure inside the canner. So once you turn the fire off, you want to make sure that before you open up this canner, that nipple is all the way down and that the gauge is now at 0 pounds of pressure, right? That's when you're going to take the pressure gauge off. Now, once you take the pressure gauge off, you're going to get your handy dandy oven mitts, right? And first I needed to use my hands to undo the lid, right? But trust me, I learned my lesson from the last time. I have my oven mitts on. Make sure that you open up this lid away from you, right? Because you do not want that hot steam coming in contact with your face, right? So you're going to have your dish towel down or something to keep from these hot jars touching a cold surface. Once again, you do not want these jars to crack or explode because of the shift in temperature, right? So remember that these jars are hot, right? So be careful when taking them out of the canner. The canner is hot, the jars are hot. Be careful. Right now, I actually left these jars in the canner for an hour turned off. So it just shows you that there's a lot of heat inside this pressure canner, because you can see that these jars are still bubbling, like they're still actively boiling, and it's been an hour since the canner's been off. Okay, now don't they look good? Like, I'm telling you, every time I'm doing this, the more I'm doing this, the more confident and empowered I feel. Now, look at that. We have the garlic in there. We have the green beans, good and cooked. And now you're just going to let them sit. You're not going to mess with them. You're going to let them sit for 24 hours, or you're going to come back the next morning and we'll handle them. So, what did I forget and what mistakes did I make this time? This time I forgot to put the vinegar inside the water. Now, because I forgot to put the vinegar inside the water, you're going to see like it looks like almost like dust around the jar and some at the top of the jar. And that's because it's my water. I'm in New York. My water is treated. So don't forget to put the vinegar in the water. Now, see, this is the next morning. I'm just showing you that once you take the rings off, right, your jars are sealed. Okay, I'm pulling these jars up literally by the lid. So it shows you that these jars are sealed. You do not want to keep these rings on, because you do not want there to be a forced seal. No matter if you do everything right, I've been told, or I've learned, that while they're in the cupboard or wherever you're storing them in a dark place, it's a possibility that your seal might release, right? So you want to make sure that you can see what's going on and you know what's going on with your seal. So we've done it again, guys. We've done some canning. See you on the next video.